What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. This is Bill Allen. On today's show, I got Mike Simmons. Mike Simmons is probably the person who's been on my show. He's probably number two after me. It's probably me and then Mike Simmons as my guest, or he's also run some guest-run podcasts on the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast too. But he was the virtual host for our Flip Hacking Live version virtually. And we're talking about Flip Hacking Live over the past few shows, and we're giving you an option to come in and see it and experience Flip Hacking Live again on a live replay. We're going to talk about it during the show today, but we basically took some of his favorite presentations, some of mine, some of the takeaways that we talked about, and sharing them with you today on the show. So I hope you enjoy.
My name is Bill Allen, and I'm the leader of a group of elite house flippers and wholesalers called Seven Figure Flipping. We don't brag or show off our success, but instead let integrity and stewardship be our guide. We are dedicated to helping people unlock the freedom they desperately need. If you ask other real estate investors, they will say to keep your secrets quiet. But we believe in abundance, not scarcity, and that's why we are the elite. We are Seven Figure Flipping, and this podcast is our playbook.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm really excited about today's show. I have one of my best friends on the podcast, Mike Simmons. And maybe I should just say my best friend, because I'm just going to disappoint him and upset him if I say one of my best friends. So
there's no downside, really. If you just say your best friend, I'll be happy. I won't know the difference. I'm not going to necessarily know what you tell other people. So that's perfect. Yeah.
I think that is true, man. I need more Simmons in my life, actually. I feel like since Flip Hacking Live, we didn't get to spend a lot of time together while we were there. You were running the virtual version. I was running the live version. Figure like we're at two separate events, even though we were like crossing paths. We talked very short period.
Yeah.
And
I spent more time near you. I spent more time near you at Flip Hacking Live than I ever have, but less time talking to you.
That's right. Well, I was hoping they would put you in a whole different room so that you would be like away. I'm just kidding. It started already. I think the people, okay, for those that are listening to this, you probably have no idea what we're talking about unless you came to the event. So I ran Flip Hacking Live October 12th, 13th, and 14th from the stage, and Simmons was right behind the screen. Like if you were on virtual, you might not have known that it was like right behind the screen. So sometimes he was being kind of like, he was presenting and introing, and the people in the audience could potentially hear him on the other side of I don't know what you call it, like a sheet wall. It was like a wall that just covered up by a sheet. And so typically the way this works is it's in like a whole nother room of the hotel that's being run. So it wasn't like physically that I didn't want Mike there. It was like, I think the setup could have been like, that's typically how it's done. So, and sometimes it's done in a whole nother event, like an event venue.
Sure.
I could have done it from like my studio here in Tennessee. It would have worked well. But what was cool about it is, and I think it's okay that we talk about this. What was cool is there's some of the people that would come off the live stage would come backstage for the virtual. So like, how did that go, Mike? How did the people like that?
Well, first of all, I think the way that we did it was interesting because it made me feel like I was part of it more than if I was in, Tennessee or something while you were in San Diego. But it was awesome getting people off the stage to come back and then answer questions that people on the virtual side of it had. Like they had a cool separate event, sort of like they obviously saw was on the main stage, but they got this other experience where they could interact with the speakers. Like how often do you sit in an audience and go, oh, I'd love to ask them this question, based off of what they said. And our people were getting to do that. So it was really cool. And it was really dynamic because there were some people that I kind of knew I was going to be able to talk to when they came off, and other people I was totally shocked by. I didn't realize that they were going to come over. And so it was like, oh, this is amazing. Right. And so you had this little kind of a frenzy from the people watching it where they were like, oh, wow. And I'm like, put your questions in the chat. Right. So it was really, really cool getting to follow up on people's presentations. It just doesn't happen that way normally. We can't really follow up, live right there at the event. So it was very cool for those folks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, for you guys that missed it, one of the things that we're going to be doing here in the coming weeks is we're going to do a live replay of it. So if you missed it, we're going to do a live replay so you can catch up and see what it was all about. And it can help you in your business and some of the things that we talked about at the event. Still 100% relevant. We're going to play those sessions that we think would give you the biggest impact in 2024 for your real estate business. So Mike, what were some of the some of the things that you got from it, or some of the, maybe the presentations that you really enjoyed?
Yeah. So I think everyone would agree that Bruce Norris's presentation was really eye-opening. It's super data-driven, and he's a super smart guy. He's predicted every major real estate event in the last 25 years. And I think going into that event, a lot of the talk that I heard from some of the folks attending and things was, what's going to happen in the next 6 months to a year? Like, what is this industry going to look like? Should I be buying more houses? What should I not be flipping? Like, what's going to happen? And his presentation, I think, really calmed a lot of people's nerves, because his general message was, it's going to be fine for the next 6 months to a year. Like, there's nothing to panic about. We'll be okay. And that was huge, because even me and you, like, we don't know everything. Like, we can't predict this stuff. And so you start having questions yourself, like, well, what does it look like? I'm not going to stop running my business. I'm not that afraid, but it is good to hear somebody like Bruce say, don't hit the pause button. Don't stop running your business. Like, you're going to be fine. And so that was big for me, just to hear that from somebody who I respect and know that they know what they're talking about. That was huge. I really enjoyed Adam Whitney's novation presentation. I do something very similar in my market, and I don't do a lot of novations, but I was very interested in hearing that sort of laid out and dissected a little bit, so I could see all the parts to it. I list things on the MLS, and I do it differently, but hearing how they're done from Whitney, from Adam's standpoint was cool, and getting him back. And he was a really popular one when we pulled him backstage, because people just had a lot of questions, right? There was a lot of, he did a great presentation, but there were still a lot of people wanting to know what if, and how does this work? And so we held Adam back there for a while and asked him a ton of questions. And that was really, really cool, because that's something that I think I'm going to incorporate into my business over the next year or so here. I think we'll start doing more novations. So that was a really good one for me. There were a ton of, they were all super good, obviously. I always love hearing Andy talk. Andy talked about seller financing, and that was awesome, because he's been doing it so long. And it's right now, it's another thing that I'm going to be doing more in my business, because there's so many people out there now who need to sell, but they happen to have a 3% mortgage, right? And so if you can get somebody to sell it to you on seller financing, or subject to, or something like that, where you can take advantage of these really low rates that everyone sort of refinanced into a couple of years ago, that's a huge opportunity, right? You seller finance from these folks, they don't or take it over subject to, that payment isn't crazy, right? And so it makes it really, really doable in a time where interest rates are just a lot higher now. So that presentation was awesome for me, and Andy's just such a good speaker, so I really enjoyed what he had to say. So yeah, those are a couple that really stood out to me.
Yeah, you mentioned Bruce Norris's talk. I actually just watched Brian Buffini does his bold prediction, like annual prediction every year, and I think he does a great job as well. And so he talked about how we're going to see over the next year, basically start seeing some trickle down in mortgage rates and the increase in volume of sales. So he was talking about how the fact that we just kind of came out of a time where the sales volume has dropped significantly. Obviously, we know there's inventory things, but with the interest rates going up, people just kind of slowed down on buying and selling. And he's seeing a 20% increase in 2024 is what he's looking at. So good news all around, which that coupled with Bruce's presentation has really made me feel a lot more confident going into 2024 and in talking to different people and everything that we're seeing. Bruce called it uncharted territory, was kind of his quote, because they really have never seen like low inventory, low distress sale, and pricing the way that it is. So it's all this like overlap and things that hadn't been seen before. And I think a lot of people took that I was talking to potentially the wrong way. They were like a little bit fearful and like uncertain. And I was like, no, I think you missed it. Now, he had so much data in his presentation that I think for a lot of people, it may have felt overwhelming, and the term uncharted territory kind of freaked him out a little bit. But if you heard what I heard, like, and talking to him backstage and beforehand and on the podcast that we did before, all really positive and good news for us. Like, not an impending crash, not devastation and death and destruction. It was very much the fact that over time in his real estate career, he's had to pivot a few times and make a decision, and sometimes earlier than others have. And basically saying, just take a deep breath and keep doing what you're doing. Maybe learn some new strategies, some new tactics, like you said, novations and some other ways to make some money, seller financing strategies to be able to make more money than everybody else around you during that time. And when everybody's running out, like just stand fast or get in, and that's the time. He's like, everybody's running the other direction. Like, I'm just going to be here buying. So it was interesting to hear that.
Yep.
And I thought that was great. What kind of feedback did you get about the event and some of the conversations that were going on the virtual? I didn't get to interact with any of the virtual people that were there. I can tell you about all the questions I got in person and all the folks that were there and feedback that I got. But what's some of the feedback that you got in the virtual world for all the people that were watching and attending that way?
Yeah. So we got, some of the feedback was that when people came back and talked to me after they were on stage, right behind the stage and had interactions with people, they loved that. Like that was a huge hit. Like that was so amazing for them. Most of them really thought that the MC for the virtual was so superior to what they were seeing on the main stage. That was a big feedback for me. No, I mean, honestly, I think the feedback that I got, obviously the presentations were amazing and everyone loved them. And there was a lot of during the presentations I was watching because people could chat, obviously put comments up, and they were like, this is amazing. Just some of that, they were just all gushing over the presenters. But I think what mostly when it came to the virtual side, and this may not be what you're asking, but they were grateful and thankful that we were treating the virtual like an actual event and not just they had their browser open and they could just see what was happening as if they weren't part of it. They felt more a part of it. It was a lot more interactive than I think they were expecting. And that was some of the feedback that we were getting too. Like, this is amazing. Thank you for bringing, Andy over after his presentation and letting us talk to him and just having that intimate interaction with the event that they weren't live at. Right. I think there was a lot of people who were shocked by that and super grateful that we were acknowledging that they were part of this and they weren't just sort of watching it on a screen with no acknowledgement. So that was kind of cool, I think.
Yeah.
And we've never done this before, right? Like you called me. I mean, we talked about this like a couple of weeks before the event and you're like, I might do this. I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you want to, I want you to do it. So it wasn't like, we had tons of time to plan, but it came off really well. I think honestly, people liked it in all seriousness. I think they really, really enjoyed it much more than just like, hey, here's a link. You're going to see the main stage and just sit there and enjoy it if you want or not. You know what I mean? Like they actually had some involvement in it.
Yeah. The interaction is really important. Did some breakout rooms where they could kind of get to know each other and network and talk amongst themselves. Yep. Could try to, duplicate the kind of feeling that you got in live in-person event. I had a few people, I had one woman fly out to my farm afterwards who was on the virtual, and she was just like blown away with the type of content that was delivered, the experience, and not just virtual, just like Flip Hacking Live itself. Like, and this is what I hear all the time. It's very much, I can't believe how much you guys share. I can't believe how open everybody is. I can't believe all the resources that we gave afterwards. So it's like, hey, I have this checklist. I have this agreement. I have this document. I'll put it. And so what they do is they send it to me and we create a landing page after Flip Hacking Live that the attendees can go to and just download all the stuff that they wanted to give. So all the speakers just freely give. They're not holding anything back. It's not like you can't get it unless you join our 7-figure runway program. It's very much you come to the event, we'll help you as much as we can. And that's just a little taste of what goes on inside the mastermind group, is it? It's like, this is some of our best stuff. We're giving it away for free. Imagine what it is behind like if you were paying for it and coming to the events. So that's some of the feedback I got was, I definitely heard that the MC was great virtual. They didn't get to see a lot of me as the MC live. So I totally understand how they couldn't compare the two. But she said that like, it was real tangible things for her investing business. And some of the emails, I get the opportunity to read a lot of the emails that we get, which are mostly positive. I would say like 95 of them are positive. We do get a couple of rough ones.
You could have put $1,000 envelope taped to the bottom of everyone's seat and somebody would have complained. So
Oh,
you
for
can't
sure.
please everybody. There's no
For
way to
sure.
please everybody.
For sure. But I mean, some of the feedback was very much just that. Like I've been to a lot of workshops before, been to a lot of trainings, been to a lot of seminars, and it's very rare that we have, number one, this kind of environment. So like these values of people with these kind of values, and then the type of content that's being delivered. So if you're interested in starting your real estate business, ramping it up, scaling it, like we hit all of those areas at this event, and we're actually doing a live replay of this, and it's free. So you can just jump in for free, see a live replay, and we'll obviously like structure it appropriately and basically give you an experience a lot like what Mike's talking about that the virtual group got behind the scenes. So like we're going to curate the different presentations. If it's something that only made sense October, November, December, January, at the end of 2023, then it's coming out. If it was like real-time information, we're not going to waste your time. We're going to make sure that we curate it to the best way we can and the things that you're going to need. So I'm excited about that. And I'm pumped for you to be able to attend this, especially if you couldn't travel then, if you couldn't afford it, if you didn't have the time, whatever it was. Just, I had something double scheduled then. And now you have the opportunity to check it out. And I hope it helps you. And if it does help you, I think you're going to see the value of what we do and what we offer. Mike, I talked a little bit at the event about the scenario-based training, simulation model, these kind of things that we're doing. And I know after the event, we were up in my suite kind of all together, like all the partners, we were up there, and it was very much like me and you talking for a bit of it. Like, I just like, how does this work? Like, what is, explain it to me. Like, let me understand it. And for me, everything that I've done has been like weighing benefit and cost, like asking as many questions as possible, gathering as much information, and looking at contingency plans and backups. It's like, if this doesn't work, and then working through different models of like trying things out. And at the beginning, it was a lot of really difficult, challenging thought. So like when you're making a decision on something, like, should I do this deal? Should I not do this deal? In your head, you're constantly weighing like benefit, cost analysis, risk. You're looking at all that stuff, and you're thinking about, okay, then like if this seller backs out, a day before closing, what am I going to do? If this buyer, so like the reason why you started filing probably memorandum of contract or MOIs or these kind of things is because a seller backed out at the last minute, and you were counting on $30,000, $40,000 in your business. And so then you put something in place. So, and you had to learn the hard way. Like all of us had to learn the hard way, lose money, lose time, and to build that experience. So what I want to build is this model in a scenario-based training or simulation where somebody can do it where they don't lose money. They can actually make decisions at high risk on paper, but there's no high risk output. There's no challenge. Yeah. So in all of that, I really think the facilitation of this has gone really, really well over the past few months. I've been really enjoying it. I just taught a class to my 8-figure entrepreneurs on how they can build it out for their staff, their team, and then even in their hiring process, they can add in an interview style like this where you do a scenario for a potential. Imagine if you're listening to this, if you were hiring somebody and you gave them a scenario and said, what would you do if this happened? And they're like, they have to start asking you questions and going through it, and you have a desired outcome, and you just want to see how they navigate there. So a lot of the things that we're doing. So I'm curious, Mike, like with all the conversations that we had and some of that stuff, like what do you think about the future of this for real estate investors? And even probably have never sat through an actual simulation, but if you go back to some of the times where you were deciding, you're probably running them without even knowing it. So what do you think about that?
I am. So I did have questions. I was confused for a while. I'll admit that. I mean, you admitted it for me just now, so I'll go ahead and admit it out loud. And I was never in the military, so that didn't resonate, like that part of it. Like, oh, remember, like we did this in the military. I can't remember that. Even though I still contend if I wanted to, I could learn how to fly a plane and probably be just as good as you are, right? Probably.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
No, but all seriousness, it was confusing. The concept, I wasn't really getting it. And my aha moment, honestly, was when we put it in the context of, like you're talking about my business and running, like kind of learning from mistakes and putting things in place. That's very true. But where it really resonated with me, how this is used to train or to coach or to teach, was when I realized when someone when one of our members or somebody at an event like that comes up, they normally do something like this. They'll go, my marketing doesn't work. My marketing doesn't work. I need new marketing, right? It's like just one little, like just blast something out that isn't very detailed. And then I immediately, because I've answered a question like this before, I immediately go, what's your market? What kind of marketing are you doing? Like what state are you in? What kind of marketing you're doing? How much are you spending? What kind of response are you getting? How long you've been doing it? I have questions that I need to fire out before I can really help them with anything. And really, I prefer if they just answer my questions and don't editorialize anything. I just want to know the answer, right? Because I'm looking to fill all of these gaps in my knowledge. And once I fill all those gaps, then I feel confident to give them direction or to tell them what I think. And you're right. Until I realized I'm doing it, I'm doing scenario-based training when I'm talking to our members or when I'm helping somebody with an issue in their business or in my own company, right? When my dispo guy comes to me and says, we got to cancel the contract, I can't sell it. Right. And then I go, well, hold on a second. All right. Where's the house? What kind of marketing have you done? Did you try this? Did you do this? Well, what did they say? Well, what if we get a reduction? Like I'm asking all these questions and then we come to a solution. I do it all the time. I didn't label it scenario based. And that's exactly what it is though. I'm just asking a lot of questions so I can acclimate myself and kind of get my feet under me about what's happening. Then I can answer the question. Then we can start working on a solution. But I do it all the time. And I think people who are really competent in anything that they do it all the time. I think parents do it, right? Kids come to you, my sister hit me and I'm mad, right? Well, okay, let's talk about this. What happened? What did you do? What did she do? What did you say? How did you handle it? Oh, you hit her first. Okay. Well, you're always asking questions or try to come to that solution. And so I think it's a no-brainer. I think when you structure it like we're doing now, when you actually label it and people realize what they're doing, it takes on a new power, right? It becomes even more powerful because to your point, how would you, as a member or somebody who's trying to learn this industry, how would you feel if you could go on 20 seller appointments and never risk losing a contract, never have to spend a dime on marketing? Just you can go on 20 really good, high quality, different seller appointments and run those scenarios. And so when you do that, you have the experience now of having gone on 20. So when you actually go on one that you spent marketing dollars for, or you had to spend time and you get that seller appointment, you go on that appointment. Now you have experience. You're an experienced acquisitions manager, or you're an experienced person trying to get that contract. I think the value in that is, you could calculate it by saying, what is a contract worth to you? If you're a wholesaler, for example, maybe it's worth $10,000 minimally, right? $10,000 per appointment we're going on. But you went on 20 of them for free, right? You want 20 of them without spending a dime. And if the first one you go on that's live, if you have that experience and you don't screw it up because it's your first one, maybe it's worth $10,000, day one. So I think it's a no-brainer. And I think it's something that when people understand the value and what they're actually getting from that and the experience, it sort of rounds out the coaching that people have been doing. To your point, it was missing something, right? We were trying to take huge leaps and people weren't comfortable. A lot of people weren't comfortable with that leap. The simulation fills in a huge chasm that we were trying to get them to jump over, to be comfortable out in the wild doing this, spending real money or putting real money at stake. This is filling that and giving them a pathway where they don't feel like they're taking this huge leap of faith that they're not ready for. So yeah, I think it's awesome. And I did challenge a little bit because that's just who I am but I'm kind of ornery, but I just needed to understand so that I could get behind it. And so we had that conversation and I totally understand now.
Yeah. One thing you said when you were asking all those questions, when somebody comes to you with a problem, right? When you're listening to that, like, this is not about you solving other people's problems. It's about you solving your own problem. So what if then, instead of like you say, hey, I have a problem with marketing, in the beginning, you got to start understanding, like, what does that mean? What kind of questions do I have to ask? So as you learn that, you start learning the foundational model, you start asking questions to Mike for some coaching, but then, the whole goal is to figure out how you then ask yourself, what have I already tried? What haven't I tried?
Yep.
What worked? What does this mean? What does that mean? And then you start being able to coach yourself effectively. Like we turn the table so you can ask better questions of either yourself or the information that you're getting back. So it's about like querying the data. So if Mike was like, well, what's your response rate? And you're like, I don't know. Okay, boom. We have a foundational hole there that needs to go. You need to understand what that means and why it's important. And what does that number even mean to you? And what other, so all of this, it's just like deeper learning and actual training. Mike said the word training, and he's exactly right. Most professions, especially high risk professions and even athletes and really anybody, they spend more time training than they do doing. So like I was watching the Ravens play football last night. Those guys play, 16 games and the playoffs. Hopefully the playoffs all the way to Super Bowl. Hopefully my team plays a lot of games this year. But they spend way more time on the practice field than they do like training and in the gym training than they do when they're on the field. And so what I realized recently as I was teaching this last week, taught it Thursday and Friday at my office, is we don't spend any time training. Not at all. And we just want to like throw you out in the wild and say, go. And you're like, well, I mean, you don't have any training wheels to lean on. And so a lot of times it's like we just learn and learn and learn and learn and learn, which is basically like sitting down and looking at the plays. Like, can you imagine if the quarterback just studied the plays all day and didn't go out there and see the routes and throw the routes and have them run the routes? Like, there's no way they're going to be successful on Sunday. You can't just study the plays. You have to go out there and train to it and get a little bit of muscle memory and start going through it and adapting to and sometimes they'll do like dry runs, right? They'll run the plays without pads and helmets on, just touch.
Yep.
And then they put the weight of everything else on. So they're like building up to it. The same thing here. It doesn't have to take long. It doesn't take a long time, but this is where I think simulation is totally missing in pretty much all coaching, all development, all personal development type areas where I think we can facilitate that. So I would encourage you to check this out. I give a couple presentations at Flip Hacking Live about this and why it's missing and what you need and some different things. We talked about the OODA loop a lot, this observe, orient, decide, and act loop that we use in the military. I won't spend any time on it here, but I want you to attend the event. Go attend the event, see it, go through the process and start building that knowledge foundation. And then next step is you can decide whether you want to come into this simulator that we're building or not. And I really think it's going to accelerate your timeline. I think it's going to make you more successful faster. And I also think it's going to save you a lot of time, energy, and money. So that's the whole reason why we put it together, is really for getting you from that stuck place of I'm not going to start. Because when I look back to my journey, it was like years. Like I sat in that for years. I was reading books. I was listening to podcasts. I was just kind of stuck for years. And even me, I think I'm pretty risk tolerant. I think I'm pretty much a go-getter. And just something had to click for me. So I had to get pushed. And so if you're at all serious about this business, I would encourage you to attend Flip Hacking Live, the virtual replay that we're going to do, and then consider whether you want to jump into the simulator. And if you do, you can go to sevenfigurerunway.com. So the number is sevenfigurerunway.com. You don't have to wait for that either. You can just go there right now. You can go to sevenfigurerunway.com, the number sevenfigurerunway.com, fill out an application and check it out and see if we're the right fit. And again, you're not like signing your life away. You're not saying that you're one in, you're all in. Just get on a call with my team and check it out. Mike, any last things you want to say? Anything I left out?
You didn't leave it out, but I want to say it one more time. I want to underscore something that you said that is so important. And I think you can't overemphasize this. And I think people totally don't understand this until they go to Flip Hacking Live, is this is not a bunch of people getting on stage telling you 15% of what you need to know to get something done in your business. It's people getting on stage and just giving it all to you, giving it all away. And then a lot of times giving you resources that are super valuable that help actually get that thing done. So if you've been to other events and you haven't been to Flip Hacking Live and you get frustrated because it's like, well, that sounds good, but they didn't give me much. They just sort of teased me with a high level theory. That's not what you get here. The people on stage are giving it away. Like they're giving you from A to Z, this, whatever it is that they're presenting, this thing that they're great at in their business, that's making them a ton of money. They're giving it all away and they're doing it very generously. And a lot of times, like to your point, giving a resource to go with it. So that's amazing. And I think you got to check it out. You got to trust me, check it out. And you can write me if I'm lying, but it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. So yeah, I think it's huge. You said it, but I think it bears repeating because it's phenomenal how much people give away in their presentations.
Yep. And we'll put a link in the description here. If you're listening to the podcast, it'll be in the social media post. If you're watching on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or anywhere else that we put out this kind of content. And then otherwise it'll be in the email. You can just click it, jump in. And again, it's free version of Flip Hacking Live. You can watch it. It's, we did it a couple months ago. No plane ticket, no hotel, no flight, no none of that stuff. Just jump in, join us, and then again,
Bill, this is the opposite. This is the opposite experience. Most times you hear the price is going up, so hurry, right? This is the opposite. This went from some sort of a paid thing to the price just went to free. So that's amazing, right?
Yeah. So no excuse for this. You don't really have any excuse other than time, and I know that's valuable. So that's the trade. Remember, it's cost benefit. So for everything that I do, decisions that I make, what is the benefit and outcome of this? And I hope that we've portrayed that. You got people that are stepping on stage that went to the event the year before, and this year they've really scaled their business massively just by one thing that they've learned from that event. So if there's something there for you, if you're interested in getting started or growing and scaling your real estate business, jump in, check it out. And I don't plan on doing this. Not going to be an every month thing. So there is your push to jump in there and do it. And if you want to skip to the front of the line, just go to sevenfigurerunway.com and jump in the simulator right now. You can go to sevenfigurerunway.com, the number sevenfigurerunway.com, and fill out an application and jump in. Mike, thanks for being here with me. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Thanks for having me.